All right, so today we are going to be talking about, and again, I have way too many things open on my computer. We're going to be talking about overcoming obstacles when you're trying to work on your diversity plan. And that is a very real and also very painful thing. So, with that, we have, let me pull up this one thing that I want to have. So, one of the things that when you're talking about diversity and working with your theater companies or just whatever little small community groups that you are with, or even whether it's at work, one of the things that I have noticed that becomes one of the main sticking points is that you have this plan and you've written out your diversity, equity, and inclusion statements, and you say, we are going to do all these wonderful things to make sure that we are inclusive and welcoming and engaging. And then the wheels completely, the car stops moving. Because then you need to start acting on these things that you've created. And it's usually what I have found, those of us that are on the calls, that have been on these calls, are the ones that are doing the creations. And then we've already worked to the bone. And now it's like, okay, out of the 12 people that are on this board, how are we going to get this done? And it's like crickets. No one is saying anything. No one's participating. And everyone is waiting for someone else to say, hey, I'll do it. So it becomes this real quiet room. So one of the things that I have been suggesting with some groups that I am working with is one of the first things when you're working on those diversity plans, whether or not your board is diverse yet, truthfully is somewhat obsolete. Yes, you do want a diverse board. That is what we're all striving for, but you're not going to be able to flip a switch and all of a sudden you're across the board, everything's diverse. And even if you are lucky enough to have that within a board, you have to deal with all these other things that kind of come into play. People that come on the board and quote unquote assimilate. They don't want to be considered the person that is ostracized for being too vocal or the person whose values aren't respected, whether they come in with this preconceived notion or whether or not it happens. Some people assimilate. As individuals and also as board members, we need to recognize when that's happening. And I know when I'm doing it, I know when I'm assimilating. I am very vocal. I know this. Sometimes I wish I would shut up. But when I am in a meeting of some sort and we start talking about things that get to be really uncomfortable for everyone in the room, I tend to assimilate and sit back and get real quiet. And I too wait for someone to say that they'll do it. And then I go, okay, I'll help you with that. That's something that I have over the past year had to break out of, which is why these diversity chats started happening, which is why Confidence Theatrics started happening, is because I had to break out of that mode of waiting for someone else to take the lead. So I would say one of the first tips would be prepared with whatever that you're working on, whether it's a group thing or whether it's an individual project that you are bringing to the board. Be prepared to take the lead on it. And yes, that does mean that 9 times out of 10, you're the one that created the plan. You're the one that's going to be doing the work. But here are ways to engage other people in order to join you on this journey of trying to get this diversity plan to work. One of the things that I have found when you are, just say within your board, you know where the talents lie within your board. Somebody might be very well organized. Somebody might be really good at writing. Somebody might be really good at public speaking. Someone else might be good at graphic design. Whatever it might be, find whatever that tip is with each individual person. Just one thing that's really clear and precise that they can bring to the table, and take that and make it a value add for whatever it is that you're doing. And I'm going to use Penny, for instance. She had no idea I was going to use her. But we're on the board at Greenbelt Art Center, and we're doing these radio shows. And in talking with Penny, and Penny's someone that I've known for years, but I didn't get to know Penny until I got on the board. Like, I really am getting to know Penny. Penny composes music. Never knew that. Never knew that was, I was like, oh, okay, so Penny composes music. I'm doing radio shows. Is it something that I'm doing kind of by myself right now? Yes, but what have I done to engage Penny to join me within this? Not only has she been in several shows, but now I'm having her try to create not only an opening kind of theme song for the radio shows at Greenbelt, but also at Confidence Theatrics. So I took something, and that's not her only talent, but I took that talent and engaged it into a plan, which feeds into diversity, which are the radio plays, because regardless of age, sex, nationality, whatever it is, as long as you can read or hear and recite, you can do the radio plays. So it's access, opens up the gates of diversity and people being welcoming and always accepted. So it's finding those little tiny things that you can, and sometimes it requires, and I will admit I'm bad at this, sometimes it requires letting go and letting other people assist. Most of us are probably type A's. And we're like, this is how I need it to happen. And then when someone says, I can help you, all of a sudden you start doing this. You start holding on really tight for dear life. Like, oh my gosh, if I give them this, it's going to be messed up. That's that unconscious bias, which has nothing to do with race or anything else. That's just that need to control, which most people have that within them. But it's being able to let go of that and let other people engage in what it is that you're planning. And you can expand that even to the diversity plan. So if you have, let's just say, if you're working with a group that says, okay, we're wanting to do, and I'm going to pick something that, please, hopefully no one is getting ready to do this because I think it's too soon. That you're going to do Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, Ma Rainey's Bottom. My brain's gone. Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. So if you're going to do this show, you're just like, okay, we're going to do this show. This is a show that we're going to do. What is the first thing that you think you need? And because it's August Wilson, I've kind of set that up to be problematic right there. But you need to get a director in that can actually take this to fruition. But you also need people that are going to support, okay, this is the show that we're going to do. And some people might say, okay, well, let's just get a whole Black production staff. Because of August Wilson, the only thing you need is a Black director. And with some of his stuff, you can get past that. Sometimes his estate will allow that to pass. But you just need a director that's knowledgeable about it. And then, so now you're going to start asking your board, who else wants to assist with this? And it's finding little tiny nuggets that they can assist with. It could be where someone could write copy for the auditions. It could be where someone else says, well, I think it would be really good if we had somebody from a college come in and have a conversation about what this show means. And it's hearing all these off the wall ideas. And I'm saying they're off the wall because if they didn't come from you, that just kind of ideas bouncing out there, take those ideas that are bouncing out there and say, I think that's great, run with it. What we tend to do when we're starting to do diversity planning, we build this construct that we want to work within, and we sit within that construct. It's almost like we are going to do this and there's no deviation from it. You create this straight one lane road where this beginning and end. And my suggestion is that you allow some variance for that because it allows people to grow. Diversity and inclusion, this whole thing that we're kind of all milling around in right now, it's not new, but it's new because it's now on the forefront of everyone's tongue. It's the forefront of what your actors and your patrons and your supporters or may, and I will say may or may not be looking at, but you need to be cognizant of those things. And it's finding ways to pull in the people that like the wallflowers that like to sit on the sides and pull them in and do certain things. And I have been known to get people to do things that they did not think they could do. I like that, but it also scares a lot of people because they're like, oh, Ricky's going to ask you to do something. You know, you can't say no to her. You can. I would like it if you wouldn't, but you can. You really can say no. But yeah, that's just one thing is that I think we just need to make sure that we're listening to people and taking whatever nuggets that they are bringing to the table and putting those nuggets in a position of value. Because when you put them in a position of value, that person feels heard, that person feels understood, that person feels valued. And then all of a sudden, they want to assist, they want to kind of help and get in there. And then the second kind of tip that I have out there is when you are allowing someone to be a part of the process, you also have to mentor and connect with them. One of the things with everything that's kind of been happening over the past year, and especially with people being in quarantine, you're also going to be dealing as things kind of shift back into the new normal, where people might not be as comfortable being in groups or in close settings, and that's fine. We have to make sure that we kind of acknowledge that when we're dealing with them, but we have to make sure that we're connecting with people on the level of which they sit. And that has been something I kind of grew up with it. You always have to meet people where they are. I know we've all heard Maya Angelou said something similar: when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. And it was like, yes, believe them when they show you who they really are. But you can also mentor people to be who they are yet to become. And that's where, when you're working with boards and diversity, helping people kind of get out of their own way, because our own unconscious bias is what stops us from being more open. When one of the things about connection, when you're trying to connect with people, you usually connect with people that are very similar to you. So, and I've had this conversation with a couple of different organizations where people are like, well, I just don't know. And it's a valid statement. I don't know where the Black people are. I don't know where all of them are. I know where at least 20 of them are because they're my friends. But I don't know where they are either. But it's finding a way to, if you're just looking at the people that are within your connect circle, that's going to be a very small circle. And you can ask them, so I can go, so Marcy, do you know anybody that's BIPOC that could be in this particular show? Marcy's then going to look at her little circle. My suggestion for boards, and I've said this kind of time and time again, is to get out of looking in your comfort zone and look outside of your comfort zone. Yes, we are all working with community theaters and that, community. So if you're, I'm going to use Gaithersburg since that's where I am. If I have the Gaithersburg Community Theater Group right here, and I'm only searching in Gaithersburg for people, what I've done is closed off my range where I can reach. I have completely ostracized other communities because I'm focused here. Doesn't mean that you can't still be focused there, but you need to have a finger here and a toe there and maybe a nose in someone else's community so that you can kind of expand from that. And that's where you kind of have to go beyond that unconscious bias that we have to stay with things that are familiar and make conscious decisions to go outside of the familiar. And I don't think it was Beth. I think it was, even though I might have said it to Colonial Players, I think when we had that one meeting, I think I said, even though it makes sense now or will in the future, but not in the time that I said it to them. I was like, go to karaoke bars if you're looking for people. Yeah, during the pandemic, that's probably not a good thing, but you get where I'm going with that when you go to restaurants and places where you go just to have fun, we've all sat somewhere at a restaurant, at a bar, or in a waiting room, and we've had that conversation that we struck up with someone. Somewhere in our brains, we just go, well, this is my work. This is, my family. These are the things I enjoy to do. For some reason, theater never comes up in that conversation. I don't know why we stop when it comes to theater, because usually when you start talking about theater, then the ask comes in on the back end of, do you do theater? You should come by. You should join. You should do this. And those are things that I've kind of always done. I'm very much a wallflower when I go out. I like watching people versus engaging with them. But once I do engage, it's like a complete open faucet. But most of my really good theater friends that I call on now to assist me to do certain things, shockingly, I've met them all at karaoke or some bar. Didn't know them before then. I met a girl that we were both singing karaoke. I said, oh, you should come audition for this show that I'm, choreographing. And I was also going out. It was Little Night Music. I was going out for Petra. She beat me out for Petra. I had to clutch my pearls. I was very shocked. I was like, and she was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, it's okay. It's okay. I can't win everything. I did pull you off the stage at the karaoke spot and told you to come audition, and you did. And then she pulled me into another organization a couple of years later, and then I pulled her into another organization. But it's that thing of reaching outside of the comfort zone. Normally, I would not have walked up to her and said anything, but she sang one of my favorite songs, and I was like, well, crap, I can't sing that now. And that's kind of how the whole conversation started. So it's kind of getting out of your own unconscious bias way and moving in a conscious way to be that change and to kind of reach out beyond where you normally reach. And then when you have those people, and this is where I'm just going to ask the question so I can kind of make it a little more personal for all of you that are on the call. For where you are with your diversity statements right now, or your diversity reach, how many of you, and you can just raise your hands, how many of you really are actively doing things to promote and expand your diversity reach? Okay, nope. That is perfectly okay. And that's the reason why I'm having this call, is because everyone's kind of sitting there like, I think we are. And we have a plan, but it's now that step of, okay, are we going to push the car down the hill and see what happens or not? A lot of what happens when you're trying to make change, to be quite truthful, when you're trying to make change, is it's not a skill gap type of thing. It's a confidence gap. It's that you're so afraid that if I do this, I am going to mess up. I'm going to upset subscribers. I'm going to say the wrong thing. This is not going to work out, especially when you're dealing with trying to pull other people into a perception. Because diversity is valued, but it's a perception, because how one company perceives their diversity and how the people that you're trying to reach and how they want to be reached or how they perceive diversity, you may not match up, but it's all about the trying. And y'all will hear me say this time and time again. If you talk to 50 and get 1, that's a win. If you talk to 50 and get 50, I want to mimic you, and I need you to bottle whatever that is. Take the 1 and call it a win. So, again, going back to kind of getting that thing moving, where is, and this is where y'all are going to have to unmute and kind of tell me, and then I'm going to write down a couple of things that you say, and then I'm going to help you kind of walk through how to muddle through that issue. Give me some examples of where you're stuck with your diversity plan or diversity action or whatever it is that you're trying to do. Where are you stuck?
As I'm writing, I was writing grant papers, and I got stuck with the how. Like, I can write, here's our goal, here's what we're aiming for, here's what we are planning on doing. We find it really important. It's like it's a vital thing, but it's a matter of giving examples of exactly how. I feel like the action items aren't clear yet. It's kind of like, I think I'm more looking at what we will do if something happens, or how we will react to something, rather than being the proactive. I mean, and I guess the things that I feel like that we're doing proactively, I can't quite bottle into a sentence. It's more about a concept or a thought, or it passed the, we updated our bylaws, or we diversified, or we did marketing outreach to different groups. Like, those are things, and those are action items. But I feel like if I say we're going to do workshops, it's like, okay, I feel like I need to say more than just we're going to do workshops, or we're going to address racism head on, or we're going to update our processes. It's like, those are all vague to me, and they are vague, obviously, but I also trying to get the actual statement of what I think we're still figuring out how to what those things are, I guess, or how to say specifics. I don't think we have specifics.
Yeah, you're trying to take your ideas and make them
Concrete,
actionable, and you're trying to make it a sentence versus an entire conversation to explain what it is you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yes, I feel that. I feel that 100%. I'm having that same conversation with my board. They're just like, but what does this mean? I was like, well, it means, and then I've talked for 20 minutes, and they're like, I was like, okay, so I need to whittle that down. So what I've done in those instances, which kind of helped me with, and we're still kind of tweaking the wording. So with Confidence Theatrics, I have the pay what you can. So I have an access pass for people that can afford anything at all. There's always, all of our classes, there's always a free section. for anyone that wants to take it. And then, so that was one thing where I had to, I think I probably talked for 30 minutes. And then my little brother was like, so you want some of the classes to be free? I was like, yes. He was like, that's all you had to say. But it took me 30 minutes of talking to get to that. So sometimes within your board meetings, you might need to have someone that can capture what you're saying and just kind of write it down, or have a tape recorder going so you can kind of listen back to what you've said. And usually we hit everything that needs to be concise, but because we're just, as we talk, 5 minutes after we've said something, whatever was said 5 minutes ago is completely gone. So it's one of those things where I would say, and also when you're creating these action items, just find one action item. You can have 10. Arrange them in terms of, okay, I want to have free access classes. I want to have teachers from all different walks of life. I want to have somebody from Broadway. I want to have this. Now it's putting all those things together and saying, which is most important out of everything that I just said? And that's your first thing. And that's what you tackle. And once you get that done, then you move down to the next thing. So if it's workshops for you, Marcy, it would be, okay, let's come up with 3 types of workshops that we can have. And out of those 3 types of workshops, what are they going to do? And you start asking the who, what, when, where, and why type things, and just force yourself to really think, I want this workshop to do this for this person. If it's increase their confidence, if it's they're going to do, it's going to be a workshop where we're talking about repurposing, and I'm going to say something completely off the map, trust me, repurposing Sound of Music to be played by Pan-Asian, an entire Pan-Asian cast. Again, I said it was going to be completely off the wall. But if that's where you're going to go, like if that's the thing, at least you have something like this workshop, that's what they're going to discuss. And what are they going to get out of that? They're going to get an understanding of how this particular show could be done a particular different, you know, in a different way. Or now I'm going to use Chelsea because she doesn't know I know this about her. I'm going to say, so Chelsea's like, we're going to take In the Heights and we're going to completely flip In the Heights, and it's going to be done by a youth group on a Navajo reservation. How does that change the concept of In the Heights? I will always come up with some off the wall things just because it's ridiculous and it makes you listen. But those are things. So if she were to do that, what does that do? What does that concept do for diversity? What does it do? And it's like, well, it allows them to think differently about how shows could be done. That's your how. We're going to do this, and this is what it's going to do. And I'm trying to think, was there something else that was in my brain? Nope, I think it emptied out on that one. I think In the Heights on the Navajo reservation did it in. Yeah, completely did it in. Anybody else? Beth, I'm coming to you, Penny, next.
So I think one of the challenges that we have is the board, you know, put out a decent statement, and there's multi parts to it. So there's actually different people who should be approaching different things. And I think on my side of it, the artistic side, you know, one of the things was we had a charge as a team to find a play and a director that would fit our diversity issues, and we were, and we have gone ahead with that. So we, and for a lot of people know, we got the wonderful Eleanor Tapscott. She'll be directing a show, by the way, Meet Vera Stark, for us in the fall. And that part's great, but there's other, you know, there's actually like a team that's supposed to be specifically geared on outreach. And I honestly don't know I don't really understand what they're doing. The reports have been a little bit vague. There's other just folks who are supposed to be in charge of other elements of outreach. And I just don't know what's happening with them. I realize this is a lot of our, just internally as a board, we need to get more focused and communicate better. But it is a challenge that we're facing where we have, some folks that are charging ahead and other folks that I don't know what they're doing. So that it's just become, I think that's where in my perspective, and I don't know, Erica might have a different one. That's where I think we've gotten stuck. That it just doesn't seem like there's the same amount of effort coming from more people
so you have
our mission, our diversity goals.
So you have people with different engagement with the process, and that's going to happen with any board, with any job, within any situation. I mean, I have that with my little brother now. It's my company, but I think he's more excited about it than I am. I'm more worried about it. So, he was like, we have to do this. And I was like, wait a minute. I'm still trying to breathe. I'm doing marketing. So the engagement is something that he and I have had to have several conversations about, what it is that he's doing. So we literally have, not only do we have strategy meetings, we have check-in meetings where this is what I'm doing and this is what he's doing. And we make sure we have an understanding about what that is when we come out of that meeting. And yes, it's a lot of Zoom and we're pretty much meeting on a weekly basis, but that as a suggestion for your particular situation, because you have people, you said you have reports coming back and you're not sure what's coming into it, maybe, and I'm assuming you're overseeing most of it kind of at a different, or you're just
I was overseeing what the artistic elements of it are through play selection, director selection, etc.
Okay.
But there's other aspects which are just general outreach to the community. That's a different committee. There's marketing, which is who knows what's happening with that. So it's and that site. It's just frustrating. I mean, I end up doing a lot because I feel like I have to step in because nobody else that is supposed to be responsible for these other areas seems to be
doing it. Is there someone
I would say doing as much? They don't
doing as much
have as much time or energy to put into it as I do.
Right. No, I get that. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about that unconscious bias that we have and like I said, we're all on this call, we're all doers, and we do tend to get burnout when we are in a mix of, and I'm not saying they're non-doers, but people that kind of get stuck in the quagmire, stuck in the quicksand and can't really motivate and move much. Sometimes we have to be the overdoer and kind of help mentor and kind of coach them through that. So if you are going to step in, instead of stepping in and handling, and I'm not saying that you're doing that, but step in and help monitor and help them get just say for instance, the outreach, the diversity outreach group. What are their goals within that diversity outreach group? Is it to get more people?
That's a good question. What are their goals?
Yeah. And that's just something, just be like, well, I just need to know what the goals are. And they say, well, we don't know. It's like, okay, well, are we wanting to bring in more people of different backgrounds? Are we wanting to bring people into the board, or are we just wanting to bring them into the Zoom room to watch something that we're doing? Or I think it's more finding out what just find 2 or 3 things for each one of those committees that are kind of sitting out there to say, what is this committee going to do? So someone within the board is going to have to say, I want to help you succeed. And these are the questions that we kind of need to ask to help focus them. And I trust me, I know how frustrating that is. But yeah, that would
You've
be.
just actually given me a great idea, Ricky, because
Mhm.
you know, obviously, it just seems like those are kind of good questions to get them to get
Yeah,
their support for what we have to do with our
yeah,
play with Eleanor, who's brand new to our theater. I don't think she's probably ever even been there.
yep.
And
I know her very well.
we're going to have to, you know, give her total support. I don't think she's dragging people to Annapolis from Virginia to work. So I think that
You'd be
what you just
happy.
said is a good. I can actually probably go to that group and say, hey, you know, this is what we're going to need. You know, what do you think you can do to help us in this type of outreach? So that's an actually.
Yeah, and even
I
with
mean,
the marketing
it seems like
thing,
basic, but I wasn't really thinking there. So
yeah.
that's a good idea.
Yeah, and one of the things that I know I just did with Silhouette Stages, because we're doing Brooklyn the musical, we had tons of people that auditioned, tons, and Chelsea's in the cast, by the way. We had tons of people that auditioned for the show, and TJ was like, as usual with every show, where are the men? So I was like, put it on Backstage, and he goes, Backstage? He said, but that's for professionals. And I was like, yeah, but I'm also on there, and I'm looking for the community theater things, because for me, if it's paid, it means I have to leave my house, and I'm not doing that. So he put it on there, and next thing you know, we had people from somebody from South America, somebody from London, somebody from France. All these people from other parts of the world now know about Silhouette Stages. So even with, you know, whether you're going to be virtual or whether you're going to be in person, I think expanding from a marketing perspective, who sees what you're doing really helps. I know for the one of the first shows that I did at Greenbelt, the radio shows, there's a girl from Indiana, never been to Greenbelt. Her sister has been to Greenbelt, and her sister came to see Nikki, or knew of it through Nikki, because Jennifer, now Soap McGee, you know who I'm talking about, Jennifer Soap. So Jennifer knows Nikki, who's now on the call, and also knows Nikki's best friend, who did Cabaret with me back in 2000, way back. But she only auditioned for the show because she knew through the grapevine, she had heard about Greenbelt and Cabaret from like 12 years ago. So that's just the outreach that you have with the virtualness of things. And she's even said, well, if I ever come to the city, I know what theater company, I just want to go see what they're doing. So look at doing the most free and mundane type of advertising that you can do out there. That will help with outreach. It'll also help with visibility, because whatever you're doing, whether it's small or whether it's big, carries a lot of weight now that we're in this virtual capacity of the world. So, and yeah, definitely asking those questions, Beth. I think it will give you, it'll help them, but it'll also give you peace of mind to know that the questions have been asked. Yes. Thank you, Jolene. I know she had to leave. So who else is having, yes, Penny.
Okay. So I come up with something and start running with it, and I find either I can't get the people, I need to bring in other people, and they're saying, you're on your own, good luck.
So you have people that
from
are,
my organization. I'm not saying necessarily.
I know.
If as long as I go outside to other people, I can find them, and that's great. I try to bring them in. Sometimes it's like I try to bring them in to Greenbelt because these are new people, and people are saying, well, we don't know these people. Who are they?
That's something that a lot of companies I know are facing. And it's really hard when a company hears it or recognizes that as welcoming, we are very welcoming until someone new shows up. And then all of a sudden, you're not as welcoming as you thought you were. because you have the new person and now everyone's going.
There's
And
a
then go ahead, Penny.
I'm sorry. And there's a secondary thing about that.
Yeah.
Is unless I go lone wolf with it, people take it over and won't let me do it. You know, they're saying, okay, that's a great idea, Penny. Now I'm going to tell you what to do and how to do it. Yes, give me your 5-point plan, and I'll see the people and talk to them and get back to you and let me know and let you know if I need you to do something with this. Maybe.
No, I know the issues you have, and that one can't be fixed, but I know what you're. However, with that,
Both sides of the same picture
Yeah.
in some ways.
it is, you have those people that will take your idea and run with it, or you have those people that won't engage. So you end up with, yes, being the lone individual. My suggestion would be in that particular instance, if you know, and I've done this similarly in the same situation, Penny, when I come with the idea, usually I have it already written out and ironed out. So the person that wants to take it over, and I know this is hard for some people, just don't let them. Be that person that's just like, we're going to do this together because it is a group effort. And it could be one of those things where you start assessing the talents within the group that you're working with. And like I said, if someone's really good at organization, find something within this plan that you have that they could run with. And then if somebody else is good at something else, so within the group that I think that you're talking about, I think you could span that out to where you kind of come and people like to hear that they're valued for something. And a lot of the stuff that you have to do when it comes to diversity and engaging people, whether it's internally on your board or externally, is you have to feed the ego.
Mhm.
And it's not a bad thing. It's true ego that you're feeding, but it really is a lot of knowing, you know, I can sit there and say, Laura is really good at sewing. I have seen her sew a quilt within like 30 minutes. So if I want to do the quilter show, I can say, I want to do the quilter show. I know I'm going to have issues with this. Laura, I know you're really good at quilting. Do you think I could engage you and maybe other people that you want to bring on your team to lead making a quilt for the show? She's
No,
beaming at this point. She was like, oh my gosh, she recognizes something. Or I could go to Bill and I was like, Bill's good at research. I can tell he has lots of books behind him. So if I need someone to be my dramaturg, I'm going to go to Bill because Bill will get me that whole explanation that I need. So sometimes it's assessing all the people in the room and finding out what those little nuggets are that are hidden, like you with the music. I never would have known that. And now I'm just excited that I know that about you, among other things. But that's something that if I need something musically, let me see if Penny's available.
I really appreciate that. Sometimes what I'm getting from other people is I'm a lot better at running things. My thing is running things, so I'm going to run you.
Yeah, and sometimes you just have to push back on that. That's going to happen in lots of different ways and lots of different facets of trying to get anything working within a board situation. And when it comes to diversity, sometimes it makes it even more difficult because the way I look at diversity and the way Erica looks at diversity and the way Chelsea looks at diversity is going to be completely different. We might all end up at the same place, but how we approach it is going to be very different. And being accepting of allowing those differences to intersect, intertwine, and even veer off in their own path, but still arrive at the same thing. So a lot of with the diversity plans, it's When you create them, it's like, and most of us created them because we had to. There's been an issue, there's an on-call, and we now have to create this diversity statement. And then next thing you know, you heard was, now we have to do something with it. I'm not even sure what we wrote. So how are we going to do something with it if I'm not really understanding what we wrote? So those are just kind of like the difficult things, or you have a plan, and like I said, you get there to do something, and then you're the lone person standing there with all the balls and no one to assist you to get it to that next level.
Thank you.
Start,
Thank you.
yeah, start picking on the talents that the people have around you, and it doesn't have to be all of them. If you pull one person with you, you never know what it could come out to be. Nikki, for instance. Yeah, I'm always pulling people. Nikki left me and decided she was going to move to New York and become an actress at the Tom Todoroff Conservatory. And, you know, she's been up there for 2 years now and about to graduate from the conservatory. And I brought her in to assist with free theater when I was doing their advanced acting class, just to have somebody else on the background and just kind of help listen to them, because the kids had already heard me talk for 3 months. So I pulled her in for that, and then we had a little vacation. I was like, so what are you going to do when you graduate? Oh, well, I don't know. Well, I think you should teach. So now what is she doing? She's teaching classes at Confidence Theatrics. It's finding those little things that people have that you can utilize to do different things. There are so many things. There, probably everyone on this call could teach something at your organizations that they hadn't thought of. Something. I'm pretty sure Chelsea has a piano behind her. I'm sure she was like, I can teach kids how to play Mary Had a Little Lamb. And I want it to be kids from Southeast DC that are up to age 10. That's a diversity plan. You know, Bill's like, I'm going to teach a group of individuals how to be dramaturgs. Dramaturgs are very much needed, and lots of people have no idea what they are. Or that it's even a thing. So Bill's going to do a workshop on dramaturgs and how you do that. And he's going to put it on Backstage, and then he's going to send it out to all the theater companies in the DMV and just say, you know, there's one spot available for someone at each company that can come to this class that he's going to teach. Outreach, diversity, done. Those are the kinds of things that, and yes, it's a lot of work for Bill. It's a lot of work for Chelsea, but then you can pull other people in. Bill could sit there and say, Sean, we got 30 people in this class. I'm going to need a monitor to kind of help me with this class. You want to help me facilitate this class. Like, there's so many different ways to pull different people in to do different things on a, what sounds like a huge thing, but some of these things can be really small, really minute. And I will give all of you a nugget to take back to your companies, and feel free to do with it what you wish. Because I said I was going to do it on my company, and I don't have the time or the bandwidth, so that's where I am. So I'm giving it to you guys. We all have websites. These tips and tricks that we all have in the back of our head on how to do certain things. Now that everything's Zoom, how do you do a Zoom audition? How should I look on a Zoom audition? How do I do all of this? Create your own company little video, 3 to 5 minute video, post it on your page. Boom. That's something that you're giving back to the community that will look great in a grant write-up, but it'll also look great to people that are coming to your page. Like I have a few, I just haven't gotten around to posting them. But those are just things like, these are little tiny things. And I think for a lot of time when it comes to diversity and trying to come up with all these things, we think really big, and we can start small, and that small ball, if it continues to roll down the hill, it'll kind of pick up other things. So start with the little golf ball. I think that's small enough. Yeah, start with the golf ball, and then we'll eventually get up to that little avalanche type thing that everyone's trying to avoid, because they'll be like, oh no, here comes Erica Miller and her company. It's like this big ball that's coming, but then they can't get out of the way and they get wrapped up in your greatness, is the way I look at it when the ball gets that big. Anybody else have anything before I kind of go through some other little tips that I have? Yes, Bill.
So I have an issue similar to Marcy's in that I'm doing grant applications. It's that season. And one of the areas that we're asked to provide input in is, or for results of our diversity efforts, is specifically with regards to our audience. And what I guess my challenge to accomplishing things is I'm not sure how to best capture that data or best respond to that question. And then I guess part B, the state, if you ever do one of their grant applications, they've got a great question about how do you reach out to yet as unknown audience members. I have no idea. I'm barely able even to figure out what you're talking about. So any ideas in that area would be a big help in removing an obstacle.
Yeah, and I think Laura, you had a response to that. Okay, and then I'll jump in.
So I'm currently director of audience relations for the Arlington Players. So I've been thinking about that myself, because we don't have any identifying questions for our audience in our ticketing system, but I do send out a survey afterwards, and I can start asking identifying questions so that way I can see change over time of our audience. I may not have the data right now, but I can provide a way that I'm going to start collecting it.
Yeah, and just so you know, I know that question has been around for a while. It is now a question that the states and other organizations for grants are starting to ask. The same way that diversity is a big thing. Now they're like, well, you have to show us this, this, and this. It was like, well, I didn't know I needed this prior to now, and I wasn't assessing what it was. A lot of that with some of the companies that I have worked with, they have answered the question about, what does your audience makeup look like? Even though they might not be able to give numbers, they kind of give a visual remembrance as we're predominantly, 75% non-BIPOC or 75% BIPOC or pretty evenly killed. Like they just kind of go on a visual perspective. Note one, the foundation people are not checking these numbers. They just like to see them. That much I know. They're not double checking all of those. So that would be one thing that I would say for that. But as far as starting to ask those questions in the future, the surveys are actually really good ways. I know a company just did a survey about diversity, and they sent it out to anyone that ever bought a ticket for them for the past 10 years. I don't know what their response rate was. I just know I got it 3 times because I changed emails 3 times. And I'm going, oh, and I signed up with a different email each time. So that's why I got it 3 times. But I think that would be a good place to kind of put that out. And if you send it to 100 people and get back 50, just kind of gauge it on that. As far as the how do you reach your yet untapped, unknown audience, it kind of goes back to the suggestion that I made of if you are advertising currently within, and usually we kind of go back, these are the people that bought tickets, so you go back to your subscription list. And yes, you put it on Facebook, yes, you put it on your website, but where else are you pushing that? Is there a group that you can link to where you share information in terms of, I'll publicize, thank you, Laura, I'll publicize your event, you publicize mine. I think now is a time when a lot of companies, and especially theater companies, and as much as I know y'all are going to dislike that I say this, need to join together and work together to kind of share resources and opportunities. Because, and Bill, I'm not sure where you are, but let's just say if you're in Baltimore and I'm in Fredericksburg, Virginia, two completely different audience bases. So, and we all know people around here, I know for me, back when I could travel, I would go anywhere. For me to do a show in Baltimore and for me to do a show in Virginia was like waking up and putting on clothes in the morning. That's just what I did. I would kind of do it that way. I would, and I know this will never happen, I would really love it if Watch were to advertise for the companies more. That would also help broaden that gap. I know Watch won't, but that's just a thought. That would be free publicity for everyone.
Yeah.
Other than you're a judge and you have to go judge some other show, but those were just some, I see you, Penny, I'll be there in a sec. Those would just be some of the suggestions for that. And for that reach out, it really is just, it's almost like you have to think weirdly and strangely. I have done the one thing that I thought I would never do. My company now has a Twitter account. So I guess I tweet. But that's something really weird for me. But what I have found with Twitter is that when people like you, if you like them back, then they start retweeting stuff that you say. And I really love it when there are some people that have been following me personally on Twitter start picking up my business stuff and start retweeting it. So it's weird, but I have someone in California that now is telling everybody about Confidence Theatrics. I'm not sure who they are, but I'll take it because it's advertising until they start stalking me, and then I'm gonna have to block them. But I think for those of us that are, and I say this lovingly, that are seasoned, we have to think outside of our normal marketing ploys. And there will be a whole marketing chat coming up soon. I just have to prepare for that one. That takes a lot out of me. Hopefully that helps, Bill. I know it's still a difficult one because, yeah, we're doing grants at work and they're wanting to know makeup, how we've been over the years. And usually with HR, we have that. Somehow our HR didn't, so don't ask me why. So now we're having to somehow figure out 10 years ago how many people were of this group and that group and et cetera, et cetera. Penny.
This doesn't exactly apply to the current environment except conceptually, but like engaging in community things. In the Greenbelt case, it was the Labor Day parade, and the community, the Green Man Festival, and the Festival of Lights. Things that are actually not theatrical events are great that your theater company can engage in some way. And I said it was easy to picture these things back in pre-pandemic times. So it takes more imagination to come up with those kinds of events today. But I think they're still there. But if you want to talk about outreach to new audience and people who are not your theater friends already. That's engaging in, like I said, non-theatrical events.
Yeah,
As a way of saying, both improving to grant people, look what I'm doing with the community at large.
yep.
And
That's
also
really huge.
getting new audience to come in and let you, people who even don't even think about theater or don't even know you exist.
Yeah. So Beth, I'm going to task you with, and Beth's going to laugh. I'm going to task all of you with this crazy thought that just popped in my head because I already know I don't have time for it. Y'all should do a virtual community event where literally it's like Zoom rooms where people go in and learn about your different companies and what you're doing.
I want Erica to speak. She's actually got an idea on
Oh,
that.
is that right? Okay.
I was just saying, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'm all about like Zoom parties and Zoom get-togethers now that are like interactive and you meet new people and you chat and stuff. Okay. I'm doing like that. I'm doing it small scale for Colonial Players. So, all right, I'll work on a bigger community-wide one.
Yeah, but those are just things that, and it literally just popped in my head. And those are things that I think they're unique, and they not only speak to the groups that are participating, but it speaks to all these other people. And the unconscious bias part of that needs to be conscious is that realizing that you might only have 20 or so people that show up, and most of those are people that are participating in it, but make it work. I have been going to lots of different things, and I am shocked sometimes and sometimes pleased to see all these different people. Like I can go see one reading and there are 300 people, and I can go to another reading and there are 10. They still reached people. They still got someone, whether they were there for 5 minutes, whether they were there for 10 minutes. Yeah, it's not easy, but I know we can all make small steps and strides into things. Let me see if there's anything else. And actually, I'm going to do this now, even though it's going to be on the website. I'm going to put in the chat wait a minute, am I? Yes, I am. I'm going to put in the chat the handout that I created that I keep saying that I'm going to put on the website, and then my brain goes, nope. Where's this PC? If I open desktop, where'd this one go? Overcoming network. And of course I can't find it because I have 10,000 things open on my computer. Here it is. All right, so it's called Overcoming Diversity Challenge, the PDF. But not only does it have the stuff that I kind of just talked about, it has some tips in there and just a whole list of things that'll kind of help you start thinking about things from a broader perspective of understanding, but from a precise perspective of moving the needle on your diversity plan, just kind of moving it a smidgen closer to getting something done. Boards are always usually comprised of volunteers. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has an emotion, and sometimes those things clash versus intersect. That's the best way for me to put it. And it's finding ways to take that challenge and make it a positive, and make it something that can be successful out of it. Because no one is on these boards to see them fail. No one's on these boards to see anything kind of fall apart. We all get overwhelmed, we all get overworked, and there are times when we feel unvalued, unheard, and unseen. And sometimes you just have to find a different avenue of how to coach someone, mentor someone, find a different way to communicate, pull out the value that you see in them. Because I could probably go through everyone on this call and tell you the value that I see in each one of you. Just whether I've met you for the first time or whether you've been here before, sometimes it's just the attentiveness that people give you. Sometimes it's something that they do, something that they say, but start looking for those nuggets that people have that are around you and start capitalizing on those to get buy-in for the next step in your diversity process. And that same thing can be used, whether it's diversity, whether it's programming, whether it's marketing, whether it's you need a whole new board of people because you just can't deal with the ones that you have, whatever it is. These steps and just kind of looking at things differently can help you forge through a lot of that quagmire. And I'm hoping, let's see, Tiffany, how do you encourage the people who are very opinionated to actually take action, though? Oh, I feel you on that one, Tiffany. I have
I'm
an
not
idea.
looking for like a complete answer, but
Oh,
if
no,
anybody has,
I
has
have
any
one.
tips, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm just changing my verbiage right now. That's all. No, for the ones that are completely opinionated, and I have had to deal with that, and honestly, I've been that person before, so I understand it. I admit I begrudgingly approach them in a way of, how can I help you? Though I know what I'm going to get, but I kind of flip the script and make them, how did my mom used to say it? Make them feel important, though they're really not. I know that sounds backwards, but put them in a place where they feel that they are in charge for that particular moment. And then once you kind of get their buy-in on one little tiny thing, it's almost like you're always trying to engage cooperation, even though they're opinionated about things. Find the value in whatever that opinion is and acknowledge it, and then make it work for whatever the situation that you have is. Case in point, someone that's very opinionated about how you do MailChimp. Yeah, make them think it was their idea. That's the word. That's what I was going for. I have to do this MailChimp thing for work, and I have someone that wants to look at what I do and make sure that I've done it right. And then they always have an opinion about how this was done and how that was done. So I have learned with this individual to go, here is a mock-up of what I'm looking to do. Can you give me your opinion on what this would be? Normally they don't like that because it requires that they have to do work. But I engage, or as we say, I engage the crazy and kind of get their buy-in, and then they're just like, oh, well, no, that's fine. No, I just want to make sure you're okay. Because you do have good ideas sometimes. Sometimes they come at me so fast, I just can't grab them all. They're so good nuggets. Yeah, sometimes you have to become the actress. But yeah, I would make things, like Nikki said, make them feel like it's their idea, but a lot of it is taking whatever that opinion is and just kind of encouraging it to sit with you in a different way, regardless of how they intended it to be. Make it something that you can deal with, which I have to do with mine. It's like, well, here's the mock-up. Well, you don't have to do that. No, no, no. I want your opinion. No, I do. I really don't. But after I did that for a month, I no longer have to deal with that. They're no longer asking me about MailChimp. I'm like, you want to see? No, no, I'm good. You sure? Yeah, okay. I just want you to know I value your opinion, which I do. I just don't value it when it's beating me upside the head. I'd rather we have a conversation about it than the hen peck, which is what I was getting, which does not make me want to receive it. And I've also had that conversation with them about, I want to receive what you're saying. We just need to discuss how you can say it in a different way, because the way I think you're intending it to come across, it's not coming across that way. And I'm having a hard time receiving it. And they were like, oh, well, you know, we're friends. No, 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 we're associates. Friends would not talk to me that way, but long story short, yeah. Anybody have anything else? I don't want to keep anybody late this evening. I just wanted to share the little nuggets that I have. The video will be up hopefully by the end of this week. The PDF will probably be up faster than the video. So that'll be linked out there on the website if you want access to it. If you don't have access to the website, I can also email it. Just let me know. But any other statements, questions, anything? Oh, thank you guys.